Hi, hello there friends, Skyrionn here. If you're new, then welcome to my space on the internet. And if you're a subscriber, then welcome back. Today we're travelling to the outskirts of Raccoon City in the eerie Spencer Mansion to look at 10 interesting facts in Resident Evil, a revolutionary survival horror game that has spawned countless sequels and movies. So grab yourself a quick drink and we'll get started. Number 1. In development, Resident Evil was intended to be a remake of the 1989 survival horror game, Sweet Home, which was also created by Capcom. It was then adapted to be a survival horror game set in a mansion just like Sweet Home, and finally, it was given its own story, separate from Sweet Home, and became what we know it as today. Number 2. We all know the games to be called Resident Evil, but in Japan, where the game was made, it is known as Biohazard. This is because in the United States, Biohazard was impossible to trademark. The game, band and other media had already used the word Biohazard in their title. Therefore, within Capcom, they ran a contest to find a new name. As the game sets place in a mansion and with the nature of the game, they decided on Resident Evil. Chris Kramer, the director of communications at Capcom, said in an interview with Games Radar, "I thought it was super cheesy. Can't remember what I felt was a better alternative, probably something stupid about zombies." But the rest of the marketing crew loved it, and we were ultimately able to convince Capcom Japan and Mikami-san that the name fit. Number 3. Resident Evil was put into the Guinness World Records Gamers Edition 2008 for the worst game dialogue ever. That's quite an achievement. This apparently happened because there wasn't much communication between North America and Japan, so therefore it had a bad effect on script writing. It can't all be put on the script. There was that voice acting too.
Stop it! Don't open that door!
But Chris is...
Number 4. In the early development stages of the game, the plot had 4 cybernetically enhanced police officers that investigated the mansion. Gelza and Dewey were 2 of those police officers, while Chris and Jill were the others. Dewey would have created the comic relief in the dire situation, and was modelled after the comedian Eddie Murphy. Gelza was an extremely strong character with a cybernetic eye who at one point was meant to hold up an entire roof. As the plot was adapted, these characters were scrapped and replaced with Rebecca and Barry. Number 5. This is another game that has been speedrun on multiple consoles. With no major glitches on the PlayStation, playing as Chris, the fastest time is 57 minutes and 51 seconds, while on the PC, the fastest time is playing as Chris again with a time of 35 minutes and 29 seconds. Number 6. There are 8 different endings in the game. Chris and Jill each have 2 good endings and 2 bad endings. Depending on the actions of the player, the best ending possible is destroying the mansion, therefore killing the tyrant and every character surviving, with the worst possible outcome being the mansion not exploding so the tyrant never dies, Barry/Rebecca die or are lost, and Chris/Jill are never freed from imprisonment. Number 7. The character of Albert Wesker was the result of a new approach to make the game focus more on plot. The writer, Kenichi Ayo, considered a wider role for the character in which Wesker was actually a biotechnology specialist in the US Army before joining STARS. This was also a hint that the US government was experimenting with bioweapons separate from Umbrella. This eventually wasn't put into the game, and so we got him working as a double agent for Umbrella and working against the police department. Number 8. Exclusively on the Sega Saturn version of the game, there is an unlockable minigame called Battle Game. This can be accessed by either completing the game or using a second player controller with a Resident Evil save file, and then holding in XYZ and pressing start at the title screen. In this mode, the player controls either Chris or Jill. They would then have to fight different enemies on each of the 15 stages. After completing them, the player would then get a ranking depending on how many points they scored throughout. The main spectacle of this is that the player gets to fight a zombie version of Albert Wesker, in which he's fairly difficult to kill. Number 9. The game was planned to be a cooperative multiplayer game, but sadly, due to hardware limitations, this just wasn't possible. In an early press release, it was claimed that the game would have a 2-player game mode. The Resident Evil producer, Shinji Mikami, said, "I originally planned to have a partner character always act together with a player character, and the partner's role was to do various actions and responses to the enemies, traps and puzzles, but the plan was scrapped due to hardware limitations. I absolutely believe that this would have changed the tone and feel of the game playing with someone else. For good or for bad, who knows?" Number 10. The Japanese version of the game is considerably easier than the overseas version of the game, as it has an auto-aiming function, more ink ribbons to save progress, and more ammo can be found throughout the mansion. In the director's cut of the game, which was released a year and a half later, the auto-aim function was added, but still not the other items to reduce the difficulty. I guess you're doing it the hard way. Okay, so that was 10 interesting Resident Evil facts. So there won't be a new episode next Monday. I've just started a new job and I could do with a week to prepare for it. So why don't you go ahead and check out my old videos to make up for that week? What was your favourite fact from this episode? If you liked this episode, then hit that like button, and if you really like this episode, then consider hitting that subscribe button for more content every Monday, except next Monday. Now, enjoy your day. Bye.